I think they contributed to the success, but I don't think they caused a revolution. Technology doesn't cause things, people cause things. But the great thing about technology these days is that it allows people to make connections with other people, and it empowers them, sometimes where the government can't stop it. We see some places like Libya where the government has been able to stop the internet, but in most places, social media, Facebook, Twitter, they allow people to connect, and so they lead to a lot more power of a revolution. You know, ever since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and 1990, when technology such as satellite TV and faxes spread the word, there's been a debate about whether or not technology actually causes change or just speeds it up. And I happen to think that the arc of history moves us towards more democracy, more freedom for people, and more empowerment of people, and that's what the free flow of information helps facilitate. It may not come right away, but over the course of a few years, the free flow of information leads to more democracy. Yeah. It's a great principle because freedom of information allows you to act and know what you're doing. If you want to have democracy, you have to have reliable information to know how to choose your leaders, to know how to organize your society. And I tend to think that in the internet age, we sometimes wonder what information is reliable and what information can you trust? Because sometimes a blogger will say something, a newspaper will say something, you don't know if it's right or wrong. But the good thing about the internet is you have access to so much information, you can figure out what's right and what's wrong if you pay enough attention. And that gives you power. Yes, I think they would have happened. They would have gotten started. But what surprised me is to hear our friend from Libya, who you say is in Benghazi, right? Benghazi, yeah. And we're still able to get on the internet and still able to communicate. You know, unlike broadcast television and radio, it's pretty hard to shut down the internet. You can do it for a little while. But I think, in Libya, if they're still using the internet to organize, that's very interesting to me. And it allows a revolution to keep going. It may not work right away, but you'll never be able to put it aside again once people have connected over the internet. We will have to tell Mark Zuckerberg that he's been nominated for the Nobel Prize. You know, I worked at Time Magazine for many years. And last year, we were trying to figure out who should be Person of the Year. And we ended up picking Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook because you could tell already last year that it was sweeping the world. I mean, one thing that's happened in the Arab world today is these are individual revolutions in different countries for different reasons. But the news of them spread so much quickly, so that it fascinated me that the person in Libya is monitoring what's happening in Egypt, and our friend from Saudi Arabia in Paris is listening to it all. So I think it allows things to spread. Malcolm Gladwell has been writing about that in the United States, which is it's easy to go on Facebook or on Twitter and call for things. It's harder to be there in Tahrir Square in the flesh where you might get hurt. And the question is whether Facebook and Twitter-like revolutions can actually engage in the real world, go out in the streets and fight. It's not always going to work, but I was in the Baltics a month or so ago talking to people from Belarus who were using Facebook as well as the Russian equivalent of Facebook, and they have now connected with one another. So even though it didn't work in 2006, they're laying the ground, and I think you'll see change in Belarus. It's hard to put things back in the bottle when people have information, when they're empowered to talk to one another. So even if it doesn't work right away, it's pretty hard to say we'll go back to a repressive regime, because repressive regimes exist only because they can control the flow of information. Once they lose control of the flow of information, it's hard for them to keep in power. But the thing about all those tools is they help the flow of information. Just like the printing press, 500 years ago allowed a reformation in Europe. And just as in 1968, the fax machine and other things allowed the flow of information. I think that what you're seeing is information helping to set people free. I think Iran eventually is going to have a democratic revolution because the people of Iran are very smart. They use Facebook, they use the internet a lot, they know what's happening in the world. The same is true with Syria. Syria has been trying to block the internet, but eventually I think information helps set people free. To answer that question, I think we have to remember in the United States that Egypt is a 3,000-year-old country. It's 10 times older than the United States. It has a very noble tradition. And I think the evolution that they're going through now is very normal. I think it's going to take a while. In the United States, as the guest said, it took a century as our revolution progressed for more and more people to get the vote. But communication technology helps. Our revolution was partly caused because Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, had created a postal service that connected all of the colonies. So there could be what was called a committee of correspondence, and they could share information. And what you're seeing happening in Egypt, it just means it's happening much faster. The mission of the BBG and of Alhurra, Voice of America, and any other good media service, public or private, around the world, is to give people a better chance at freedom by giving them access to information. And there are two types of governments in the world today. Those that are repressive and try to control information, and that's Iran, and to some extent China does it. And there are countries that are comfortable with the free flow of information. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has made internet freedom one of the keystones of her policy. So both the State Department and all of the international broadcast entities of the United States are very much dedicated to breaking firewalls. So what are we doing? We're allowing people in various countries to have the tools to get around the firewalls that repressive governments set up. That's true, but in the end, when people have democracy and they have a choice in how they're governed, and they have freedom to talk about any ideas they want, they will end up being a more stable society. So in the end, both for the United States, for Egypt, for all of the countries, to have some form where people are involved in their government, that's inevitable. And yeah, it causes disruptions. But look how well Egypt is handling those disruptions. Egypt, it looked, like it was going to be very messy. But Egypt is now moving down the road to more democracy with a referendum, and maybe our guest didn't like exactly how it turned out, but at least it was a referendum, and next time around, people have another say in voting. This is all very good, even if it looks like it's a bit destabilizing at first. I think that we're moving to a period in which more and more information is going to be delivered digitally, either to your cell phones, your computers, to your television sets, but through the internet. And for those of us who work for the Broadcasting Board of Governors, we don't particularly care which technology we use. We just want to get good news, reliable news, and credible information out. But I would guess, I'll look at myself, I tend to consume news on the internet 10 times more than I do on television. And I think that will be the case around the world in about 5 years. Well, don't worry, we're going to keep your TV show and this TV station, which is a wonderful, wonderful television station. And the answer is no. We're going to focus on television, and we're going to focus on the internet and on social media. We can do it all because it doesn't cost much more to take what you're doing and to put it out as you do on Facebook and on social media. We may be cutting back on older platforms like shortwave radio in some places where it's good to move the money into new media. But, we'll try to keep up with the times. And I love the fact that social media allows the communication to go both ways, that I can learn not just, what's happening through social media. The U.S. intelligence agencies? World intelligence agencies? No, I don't think. I mean, certainly not the private, things like Facebook or Twitter are not run by any of the intelligence agencies, nor for that matter are any of the broadcasts of the United States. There's an independent board that runs our journalism, and we're not in contact with any intelligence agencies. Mm-hmm. The governments can't shut down the internet forever. You can't shut down Facebook forever. If you're going to be in this world today and you're going to have an economy that works, you're going to end up needing to be connected to the rest of the world. So maybe for a year or two, you can try to shut it down, or you can do like in China, where they try to censor it some, or in Iran. But eventually, the internet was built so that it can get around firewalls, so that governments can't shut it down. So yes, it might be a year, it might be 2 years that a government can try to shut down the internet. But information will get in, whether it's by cell phone, whether it's by Skype, whether it's by the internet, social networks. And I don't think any government can stay totally shut down from the rest of the world and survive. Well, I think that we work closely with the BBC, with Deutsche Welle, with the French and others in the democratic world to try to work together to stop blocking of the internet, to have more internet freedom. And the State Department is doing that as well, and we work with the State Department. They have asked a lot of people around, to give proposals. From what I've been told, nobody has decided yet on who's going to get it. But whoever is fighting for internet freedom, we're with them. We like that. And I would love to point out to our friend from Benghazi that, we may say the internet is shut down, but we're using Skype. Skype and any type of digital technology, especially ones that use internet protocols, these are the type of things that will emerge when government tries to shut it down one way. Skype is just another digital way to communicate. Oh, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, the State Department is going to decide in 2 or 3 months. I think the Guardian was wrong, and I think they corrected it when they said that the money had been given to the BBC. I think there are hundreds of people applying for that money, and I have no idea. It will be a couple of months before they decide. But we're in favor of fighting internet freedom, and we're all doing it together. I want to compliment Alhurra and you and all the people involved in it, because this revolution that is sweeping the Arab world, some people are painting it as being, a Muslim Brotherhood revolution or Islamist revolution. I don't think it is. It's a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons, who want a little bit more freedom and some democracy and control of their lives. And the role of Alhurra and all other credible media is to report the stories of the brave people fighting for freedom and democracy, and to do it on television, on radio, on the internet, and on social media. And so this is a moment in which this network, Alhurra, has really stepped up. And I'm not just saying it because I'm on your show, but people like yourself, Brian Conniff, the people who run this network, this is their moment, because people are looking for the facts about what's happening in this democratic uprising. The choice for us is to give people information and allow them to communicate. It's not up to us to tell the people of Libya or Egypt what to do. As I said, Egypt's been around 10 times longer than our country. But it's up to us to say, here's the information, and we stand with you if you want the information, if you want to be empowered, and then it's up to you to figure out how to vote on this referendum, what to do out in the streets. We don't try to tell people what to do. We just try to give them good information. Well, we very much welcome all of us who are in the media, all of us in journalists. The more information, the more stations. I very much welcome the fact that there's stations around the world, from China to Al Jazeera. They have certain values. They have a certain way of looking at the things. China does. Al Jazeera does. I think that our way of looking at things is perhaps a good voice to have in the conversation as well, because we are there simply to say we believe in more freedom and democracy. And people can listen to all of the networks. People can make their decision. That's what the freedom of the press is all about. So I don't resent those other countries from doing it. I just think we need to be in the conversation as well, because the values that we share with the people in Tahrir Square, the values we share with people who are fighting for democracy around the Middle East, those are the type of values we want to see in the conversation as well. So all of these networks, it's great to have them, but we want to have a vibrant voice in the conversation as well. I think you're exactly right that nobody can dominate in the media world today. That's the wonderful thing about the internet and about social media. And that's what our guest, one of our guests said, which is we don't have to just rely on one or two or three or four voices. We can listen to the bloggers of the social media. And to me, that allows more freedom of the press, more freedom of information. And that's good for those of us who believe that democracy and freedom are advantaged the more information is out there. I think that was a really intelligent comment. And I will assure him and all of you that Secretary Clinton, in her internet freedom speeches, realizes that there has been this clashing of policies, but she has come down squarely on the side of the United States being in favor of more internet freedom, precisely because of what our guest just said from Tunisia, which is it empowers people to stand up against repressive governments. It's not quite finished, but obviously we're shifting more of our attention to the internet and to social media. And our friend from Tunisia is right, that you have to look at both the internet and social media, as well as television, but it may mean shifting away from other places. We have a great struggle going on throughout the Arab Middle East, in various places in Asia, and so I think we will refocus some of our resources there. I think we're really lucky. We're living in a period where you can go on the internet, you can go on social media, you can communicate with people, you can check not only what your government is saying, but what your own press is saying, and this will create a great century and a great generation of people who will be understanding of the need for more democracy and more freedom. So yeah, there'll be setbacks. People will shut down the internet in Libya. People will try to block it in Iran. But those countries will lose, and those who are in favor of internet freedom will win. Great to be with you. And you're part of this struggle too. And we sure appreciate what you're doing every day in this important show.